Of course we're talking about Sonic the Hedgehog again. The f*** you think this is? I'm Mike Dangerous, and this is Talking Shots.
So chief, it's the return of the blade and slice shade, getting paid into my silhouette fades.
Time for a masterclass in marketing, and I'm your professor, Professor Dangerous. Alright, let's say you have a business. A business that deals with family-friendly activities. You know the works. Animated movies, video games, amusement centers, the whole 9 yards. You gotta get yourself a fuzzy mascot. Something you could sell plushies with. Or force a dude to wear a suit at a game that's probably way too hot. It's a mainstay of company marketing to the point of parody. But why is that? Well, we're gonna do what we do best on this show. And let's take you back. You see, humans like animals. Like, we've always liked animals. Whether it be Japanese fox gods, Egyptian gods like Anubis and Set, to Nordic gods like Loki's pet. We've always looked up to animals for a multitude of reasons. Fast forward to the early 20th century, and Disney. Now there isn't anything remotely religious about Mickey Mouse or Goofy or any of that. It literally just boils down to the fact that animals are just easier to animate. With animation, it's really easy to fall into the uncanny valley, especially when you're drawing humans. It's like we're trained to recognize things that are just a little bit off. But with cartoon animals, we don't expect them to behave naturally. We've already suspended our disbelief. So yeah, why not let the mouse drive the boat? It also made differentiating characters in black and white much easier. Just draw a different animal. Of course, Disney, as well as other studios, eventually figured out how to draw humans convincingly, but the marketability of the animals would change the market forever. When you're attempting to make a conglomerate in anything, it helps to have something that's easily recognizable. A mascot where all you have to do is really see the silhouette and immediately know what the brand is. That's why Disney's so brilliant. Yeah, Mickey is a mouse, but his silhouette is really just 3 circles. It's immediately something recognizable, and it's something that other companies would take note of. But you see, I know why you're here. You're here for that sweet, sweet 80s and 90s nostalgia. Of course, with consumerism at its peak in the 80s and 90s, we would see a surplus of animal mascots. Ninja Turtles, Hello Kitty, Sewer Sharks. It's not Sewer Sharks. That's the Sega CD game. It's Street Sharks. I'm drunk. Drunk as fuck. You see, Sewer Sharks is lit because that one's just buff sharks. Sure, you had your Barbies and your He-Mans, but for every buff, unrealistically proportioned barbarian boy, there were like 10 other animal mascots, all competing for your attention. And if they weren't animals, they were like rainbow boys in suits. However, the real saturation came about with video games. For whatever reason, it took a little bit before we saw any notable fuzzy boys in video games. Mascots in the 80s were like Pac-Man, and like the Galaga ship. Yeah, I mean, you had Donkey Kong, but he was kind of the exception, and he was also the villain. Mario was the hero in that one. Mario wasn't even called Mario back then. His name was Jumpman. Because he jumped. Drake named him. Of course, the one who started off the craze was none other than Sonic the Hedgehog. Sonic the Hedgehog wasn't exactly a happy accident like Mickey Mouse was, though. Sonic was very heavily calculated. The reason his palette is red, white, and blue is because they wanted him to do well in America. And he's blue because the Earth is blue. I don't know, man. Sega's words, not mine. His shoe buckles were influenced by Michael Jackson's boots on the Bad album. Hell, even his attitude was a direct response to Nintendo's, let's call it, conservative attitude at the time. Also Bill Clinton. He was punk rock, and that was entirely to make Nintendo boys salty. Even his spikes used on the US box art was meant to look like a mohawk. Sonic was a masterclass in marketing, and it definitely showed. So much so that Sonic, some say, is entirely responsible for making Sega a household name. You know, I just realized something, like, Sonic's blue and so is the Sega logo. That probably makes a lot more sense than everything else I've heard. Yeah, I'm gonna go with that. The other shit I said. There was a point when Sonic was more recognizable to young children than Mickey Mouse and Abraham Lincoln. Sonic was not just a video game character, but a pop culture icon. He had video games for days, merch, like any good influencer. He even had 3 congruent TV series. 3 running at the same time. So naturally, when something is popular and makes a ton of money, well, you'd be a fool not to capitalize on it yourself. Even Nintendo, who, aside from like Kirby, had no Animal Boys, and they went ham in the 90s with series like Star Fox and redesigning Donkey Kong. Like, what even is Kirby? And yeah, I know Yoshi's a dinosaur, but like that's a completely different discussion.
And then it's cuts to their reaction because it's a real-ass dinosaur.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Don't get me started on dinosaurs. However, one lesson that went unlearned was that things require effort in order to do well. Hell, Sonic, as calculated as he was still a huge risk for Sega. But as they say, the cup runneth over, or whatever the f***. Almost immediately we would see Sonic-esque imitators, and it just wouldn't stop. Aero the Acrobat. That one's pretty self-explanatory. He's a bat that does, like, flips and Awesome Possum. That's his name. That's his f***ing name. And of course, we had the second coming of Christ, Bubsy the Bobcat. Most of these games function as you would expect. They're 2D side-scrollers where you rescue the thing from the whatever and collect the bullshit.
Oh no.
Yeah, no one was really hiding the fact that they were making Sonic clones. Hey, who am I to judge influence? But when your only character trait is edgy animal that really hates your grandma, things get old really quickly. See, Sonic itself had a bunch of influences, from Dragon Ball to Bill Clinton. But again, he was more a reflection of pop culture as a whole. There's that silhouette I was talking about. But when your only drive is X is popular, so Y must be too, you're not exactly setting yourself up for longevity. But good lord, did it never stop. We had Gex, whose only defining characteristic is that he won't shut the f*** up.
Raise that pump in the back. No.
Croc is literally just Yoshi, but like a crocodile. No, like it was literally a prototype for a 3D Yoshi game, but Nintendo shot it down. It just wouldn't stop. But that's not to say they were all forgettable. There were some great ideas that came out of the mess we know as the 1990s. Earthworm Jim was really inventive, and there was a lot of care into the details that made up the world that you played in. And they f***ed it up with the 3D game. God, that game is not good. And you bet I still paid like $40 for it, because I'm the worst. Because I'm a huge nerd. And I need to have my yellow Nintendo 64 cartridges. Crash Bandicoot is another example of how to do mascots right. Sony never really had a mascot like Mario or Sonic, and to an extent, to this day they still don't. Crash Bandicoot was Sony's unofficial mascot for a while, and it did pretty well. He had like 4 main series games on the PS1 and even a kart racer. Your mascot ain't unless they're racing go-karts. Rare, which was a second-party developer for Nintendo, had Banjo-Kazooie, which again is really inventive. However, like any good hobby, it matured. Like a fine wine. Like a really violent, sometimes problematic fine wine. By the late 90s and early aughts, animal mascots were reaching parody levels. The oversaturation of platformers with animals like aardvarks as leading video game characters got old. Even Rare was parodying themselves with games like Conker's Bad Fur Day. You literally fight a giant shit in that one. Yeah, we would see other characters pop up in the next generation like Sly Cooper and Jak and Daxter, but it was definitely getting old. And as a whole, gaming was just maturing. Sure, Nintendo the Giant made it out okay, but even Sega with their mighty Sonic the Hedgehog felt their growing pains. Eventually, we saw characters like Shadow the Hedgehog pop up, and more edgy, mature storytelling with games like Sonic Adventure 2. So of course, the next logical step is give him a fucking gun. Not even like a world-appropriate cartoony gun. No, they straight up gave Homeboy a Glock. It's the mid-2000s, and you're not a kid anymore. All of a sudden, sim games and first-person shooters grab your attention. The world feels like it's growing up. Even McDonald's started to sheer away from the kid-friendly mascots to a more adult luxury dining experience, which, let's keep it real, it's fucking McDonald's. You're not fooling anybody. But things aren't all 9 to 5 doom and gloom. There's a real sense of nostalgia for the good old animal friends. Ukulele is a direct callback to games like Banjo-Kazooie. And even Crash Bandicoot made a comeback for being harder than Dark Souls. Sony's been throwing a bone to their old franchises, and as things mellow out, I think we'll see a lot of new, inventive, creative animal mascots. I mean, the Sonic movie did surprisingly well, and if anything, it goes to show that you can reinvent things to stay relevant. You can take a character many people love and make it work. After the internet bullies you, what started off as creations literally bred from imitation turned out to be the icons of our childhood. If there's any takeaway from this, it's that too much of a good thing can definitely get boring. But that being said, there's a reason we look back at the 90s so fondly. At least I do. At its worst, we got stuff like this.
I can't wait to see you 4 whole Earth leave days. It'll be a blast.
But at its best, we were given symbols that define our youth. Literal time capsules from a time when all that mattered was choosing between Sega or Nintendo, and making sure the Noid didn't ruin our pizzas. We're looking for our dads. Look, I know it's a cliche on this show, but sometimes it's fun to bury yourself in nostalgia and get drunk on the internet. What do you think? Do you miss animal mascots, or are you glad they are a staple of a time long gone? If you grew up in the 90s, what games did you play other than Sonic or Mario? Of course, if you like what we do, you can support us on Patreon. All the love and support is very greatly appreciated. Please, I'd like to eat something else besides spiced rum. As always, thank you so much for all your support. We love hearing from you, so please don't forget to like, comment, favorite, and subscribe. I'm your boy Mike Dangerous, and this is Talking Shots.